Hey guys, welcome to another session of Epic 7. This is my ML Cermia Arena Showcase. Not to say that this Arena Showcase is going to be very scuffed. If you're watching this, definitely listen to the commentary of how I kind of rate her. But of course, I'm going to do my final review assessment on her at the end of the video, including showing my build and stats and a discussion on, sets of equipment, artifacts, my findings. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Just, again, keep in mind that those arena fights, unscripted, basically trying to hit a streak and see what works, really stress testing her. So hopefully you guys do enjoy this video. All right, so this was just going on a win streak, just really playing around teams with ML Cermia. So as I was doing this, this was like the day after ML Cermia, and I got her awakened and all that stuff, finally geared. And for this kind of streak that you're about to watch, there's a lot of stuff that I learned after. It's not really in the video, but running a Rowana onto ML Cermia kind of gives her the boost that she needs, especially in the teams that she's going to go into. So here the Pyrrha really is just to restrict. And if it was on Abyssal Crown, my Cermia would have cleansed it anyway. So she's kind of cool that way. We got an RNL here, so I got pretty lucky to get the stun on the Celine, and also to even do a dual attack. So just saying again, like I feel like this showcase is more of how strong ML Cermia is, but then she's also not OP. In terms of, I think OP characters usually don't have to have like full teams built around ML Cermia, but ML Cermia feels like she needs a full team built around her. So like the way I've used her, so if you guys are watching me on YouTube, I already did a Guild War showcase using one of my patrons accounts, Silliness, and it was really cool. And his is on lifesteal set, mine's on counter set and pen set, which I'll show the stats at the end of the video. So a lot of what's happening on screen is like me literally, like nothing was rehearsed. I'm going into all the fights kind of like blind. So the damage is pretty good as long as you have the defense buff. Now do keep in mind that there was an Aureus on that FCC. I'm literally playing with characters that I've like built recently. Pyrrha, you'll see Pyrrha, you'll see Ran, see Lilius. See Lilius, the vigor buff with the defense buff on ML Cermia is really good. That stack. So some of these fights are pretty slow. I might actually fast forward certain like areas, but mainly again this is a showcase of ML Cermia and not some kind of special team that I think I even forgot that she had Astral Guide again here. I think she procs it, so yeah, so it's pretty scuffed. But again, it's at the moment I'm hitting this, I think it's preseason arena, so like the defenses are still like the meta defense from last season pretty much, but it's just like it's not, yeah, I'm just experimenting. That was the first fight. So you guys will see, I'm basically just gonna continue on as long as there's a streak. So as you see on the screen, there are a lot of the meta defense. There's a lot of weird ones as well, actually, in this lineup. So I'm just thinking about, who to use.
How should we do this? I'll show you the path to victory.
I expected this.
Anyways, I've eventually tried like General Purgus, Rowana in the bottom slot, so it's like pretty much all Ran, Lilius, ML Cermia. But Rowana's pretty good just because like if you're going to Rimuru, Violets, Rems, even Bellions, then you got a lot of push. And I do feel that that's probably ML Cermia's weakness, is that she has no way to manipulate CR. However, that being said, I don't believe that makes her bad. It's just that we're so used to every character boosting, which is actually not a good thing. For the game, it's not a good thing that everyone has a CR boost. But she definitely really needs it. So just keep in mind, like as I'm doing this, commentating on it, defense break on defense scaler is very bad, right? So that's just something to know. The attack down wouldn't do much. Of course, every bit of debuff would affect your total output, but the defense break is the thing that hurts the most. I am using Sigurd's Scythe here, as you can see. But a lot of these fights are actually really clutch, and it only goes to show how powerful she can be. Except there's a lot of RNG here. Because of the speed buff, because of the Sigurd's Scythe, and that dual attack there, this is pretty good. So you can check out the healing. That's 10,000 heal, and I'm injured, so that's max HP. But then without the defense buff, her damage struggles, which is definitely the bad part. I'll talk about more of my thoughts on the builds and stuff like that. You know, pros and cons when I show my stats and builds. But this is bad. Yeah, as you can see, I am on counter here. I am also on pen set. So the damage you're seeing here is like the pen set obviously is only for the S1. Okay, I'm just gonna skip this part because this is just boring. Of course I win, but
This is getting exciting. You're not half bad. It's tough going up against someone who wields both magic and a sword, huh?
I'm literally just spamming fights. You know, whatever's there, let's hit it. Let's try it. Let's try to outthink it, but let's use ML Cermia. Since most defenses have some way of counter now, it's just like at the Moonlight Dreamblade RB, which is not really that popular anymore, counter RBs. Violet, Rems, Rimuru, Bellion, you know, there's just a lot of dual attacks, counter attacks. So ML Cermia was created to kind of deal with what's on the table, except I don't feel like she's a hard counter to them. Cause I do fail like in my arena, like day to day with her. Like if I force her, she doesn't always work. There's some RNG elements to it, which I did talk about when I did my initial thoughts on her. So I have Alexa's basket proc here, and I'm hoping that RB is a weak one, but it didn't die in a one hit. Like ideally it would have died right there, but it doesn't matter. I think I do win this one.
This is it.
I will destroy everything. Slowly.
ML Cermia's ER buff came in handy there, no blind. So that's very good. So as you can see, like this is pretty scuffed. Attack down is fine, it doesn't affect the overall damage too much compared to defense break. But look at the damage, right? That's pretty good. Now the issue is like, you know, how do I kill this Violet off? I do have Sigurd's Scythe, and apparently I
see your weakness.
think he kills my Lilius here, and I think I get lucky on the hit. So I'm not supposed to win this one. Mechanically speaking, this is very RNG, but I think I do kill them. So that's pretty respectable damage. Yeah, I did kill him. Yeah, my Mola S1 is not even maxed yet. That's something like I'm out of Mola. So for this showcase, unfortunately, I can't show it. But if you do run ML Cermia into the damage calculator, you would see that the Soulburn S1 on defense buff, especially with pen set, is almost as strong as like your S3. So if you did like a soul burn S1 with pen and you have a defense buff, you probably lack about like 500 damage compared to the S3. So which is pretty good, because keep in mind that even though the S3 is a lower damage mod because it's AoE, it's 50% defense pen, but the pen set giving you that 15%. You're about like maybe 500 damage, maximally 1000 damage off, but it's not even that high. To my calculations, it's not that high, so it's pretty good, the pen set that is. So my Watcher Shrew died there, pretty much useless actually in this fight. And again, I wasn't really thinking about this, but
I'll take your life. Give all that you have for the glory of Harlan.
but the Lilius Vigor buff with the defense buff is really nice. That was a misplay. I did the S1 thinking that the dual attack should be able to kill the Selene, but the Piera's damage mitigation was actually too good. There's something to keep in mind. It is a 30% Aureus, pretty much. So Aureus is 20% damage here. It's 30% into that barrier. So like you're basically not doing any damage, especially to ML Selene. But I was surprised it didn't kill the ML Selene. I think I must have lost here. There's no way I can kill that Selene.
What are you looking at? Are you sure you can handle this?
There's no way I win this.
Go.
But that heal was really good. I soul burned down on purpose just to get the heal from Sigurd.
Feel my sword. Can you even reach me?
Help. Watch out. Guiding light.
The dual attack there came in handy, but then it procced Astral Guide. So it's very risky.
In the blink of an eye. My turn now.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to win this unless the Selene doesn't do the greater. I think that's what happens. It doesn't do the greater damage.
This painless. I'll keep
Yeah, no, there's no way I can win. Oh wait, never mind. So yes, as you can see, like I'm just like slamming these fights. I win because of that bad proc. Yeah, that's a weakness of ML Selene. I've lost many offensive fights because she wouldn't proc the defense pen version of her S1.
I always give my all.
Alright, so this one's a bit cheesy. Bringing that Fire Shuri to guarantee the turn. I didn't know what I was doing again.
How should we do this? I'll show you the path.
Experimenting to the max. But that thing, I got the Alexas, so this was pretty good. My Ran is a DPS one. It's not the fastest in the world, but at least it's a full DPS.
Show me when you can step back. I'll slash your justice.
Didn't miss the Pavel there. But that was enough to at least kill 2.
Do not interfere. It's time for the finale of this little puppet show.
I got lucky on the stun, so I don't know if this counts actually. I don't think this counts. I'm not quite sure if I survived the A-Robbie there, if she had crit me. But anyways.
Tough going up against someone who wields both magic and a sword, huh?
So a quick swap. I think I lose the speed race. Underestimate the Piera.
How should we do
Oh no,
this?
never mind. I don't. There were fights I underestimated the Piera. Because Piera usually could be built without the need to have DPS. So a lot of people can run really fast Piera with very little issue. Like if their fastest speed pieces were like flat health, flat defense or whatever, like you can still make her really fast and usable. But like Ran, unless you're just making him that first turn for Caesarea or Deathbreaker or something like that, then Ran is harder to build. Higher stat requirement.
Can handle this.
This one didn't make any sense at all, actually. I don't know what I was doing here. This is not an ML Cermia showcase, so let's actually just skip this. There's really nothing that can happen now, like for my ML Cermia to pop off, so let's skip this one. But it is part of my win streak.
The situation understand.
How should we do this? Shall I get serious now?
Don't worry.
Exhausted already? I'm just getting started.
I'll take down anyone who interferes. Are you ready?
Yeah, Lexus basket really good here because this could possibly kill the RB, yeah, kill the Politis. The issue is though that Rem, so the issue is like theoretically speaking, it's pretty good to kill. Oh, what's her name? Rem with ML Cermia, but in another sense, if there's too many counters and dual attackers in the team that ML Cermia goes into, just do keep in mind that you'll have limited turns to proc. So like if Rem goes into demon mode, she starts really stripping your defense buff, and Lily's like this as well. Like look at my turn cycling here. So I don't think like this showcase is like a perfect showcase in terms of like, oh look at her work, but really like notice how she survives. I think that's the main reason why I wanted to show everything here. And arguably speaking, you could say that, well, there's a lot of the fights that she didn't really do anything to help win. But the double turn for the S3 into the S1 there for that RB kill was very nice. Of course, I think Rand carried half of the fight because he killed 2 from the get-go. But I think really this whole streak that I was recording, it was just an experiment, a stress test, if you will. A stress test of ML Cermia. How viable is she in the meta, but not in like a, what's the perfect comp? And I definitely think that if you guys can see it and you guys can see through, my scuffed plays, you can really see how well she does, I have to say. Like, you bring in another DPS, like maybe you bring in a Robbie, she'll do better. But like it's different, right? Situationally it's different, although I know a Robbie is still very meta. But just think about the slot I'm using her in right now, versus if I chose a Robbie instead, right?
Obey if you wish to live. Scar those in our way with destruction and fear. Come, I'll take your life.
There wasn't much I could do here. I was thinking about doing an S1 to get the dual attack, but I couldn't risk the Elbrus and in case it stripped one of my buffs. So it's the reason why I was thinking about that. I was like, they have death breaks, like maybe I could dual attack into someone, but it wasn't as beneficial as keeping the defense buff up. Because they had Lilius, so like that's guaranteeing certain dual attacks. Actually, I think I lose this one. But if I do, I think I lose this one. But if I lose it, I'm just gonna keep it in the video. And I think that would be the end of the streak. Yeah, the issue is that even though I had Sigurd, it doesn't proc enough if I don't have a defense buff. So there's like no, yeah, I lose this one. So I think that's the end of the streak.
Don't tell me what to do.
Oh well. 1 step backward, 3 steps forward.
So that's it for the arena fights. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the commentary behind it and you saw ML Cermia's versatility. I do definitely like her as a hero. Before we get into the stats, my build, and my final thoughts on ML Cermia, I want to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters who support me monthly. Originally, they pledged to me because of Epic 7 content. Now that I've kind of like expanded a bit to doing other stuff, they've still stuck with me through thick and thin. So I really do appreciate that. I want to give them big thanks. Azura, Deekboy, Kariha, RG Fua, Stone Thunder, Torenby, Potatoes, and Silly. Thank you guys again for your continual support. If you guys want to support me through the Patreon avenue, definitely check it out in the link down below and see what I have to offer. But other than that, let's get into it. Alright, so this is my ML Cermia. If you were watching me on YouTube, I did do a Guild War video on Silly's account using his Lionheart Cermia as my debut character. Now, Silly's build is lifesteal with defense set and all really good gear score. The very fact that if he's not running a crit set or anyone's running a crit set, your gear score must be really good unless you have a triple S one. The story behind this double S is just because every single account that I know, especially if you're day one player, end game account, you have that 1 or 2 RGB hero that you have like a triple S of, even if you never pursued like their return banners or anything like that. They're just really lucky. Now Cermia is one of them for me. So on the day that I summoned her and I promoted her, I already had 4 Cermias, so 5 Cermias. So that's the story behind the double S. I don't know if I'm gonna like slate her or just, you know, pull for a dupe. I'm not quite sure yet. I think I'm just gonna leave it there. For my stats, 97 crit rate, I will probably just aim for better gear, to be honest. Now, I haven't been excited about an ML5 or actually a hero in general in a very long time. I kind of wish ML Cermia was more OP than she is, but at the same time, I think that she's fine. So overall, there's a lot of things I want to talk about. I want to talk about like what I feel about her overall in the meta, and like her strengths or weaknesses, and then of course the build. Sigurd Scythe, I have a plus 27 here. I do have a plus 31, but that's on my rem, and Sigurd Scythe is better with an attack scaling damage dealer. She is a defense scaling one, so outside of her S1 actually having decent attack mods, you're not really going to benefit from the Sigurd Scythe outside of the lifesteal. I think that lifesteal set is something that you can definitely consider, because the way that, like, if you're going to counter, you're really getting the speed buff out of it. If you don't have a defense buff, the S1 actually doesn't do that much damage. You need to soul burn it. So on a counter, it's not doing damage, and you're not going to Sigurd Scythe proc. And the issue is, so here's the other issue that I found in my experimentations. If you're on a counter set like mine, even with Pen, and you're in Sigurd Scythe territory and you counter and you heal just enough, let's say you heal like 500 or 700, you just go above 50% health, then on the turn of your S3 you actually get no healing. Whereas if you had S3'd during the Sigurd Scythe, and you guys saw it in my arena fights, you guys saw scenarios where it did happen, it would heal a lot, right? Because you have AoE, you have 50% defense pen. So the issue with counter and even with Sigurd Scythe is that you're not gonna actually doing too much damage. So I would actually say that Silly's build, lifesteal, if you're thinking about Banshee, lifesteal probably be better. If you think about speed, you think about anything else, I would probably go with Sigurd anyway, but she really needs her turns. So I feel like counter set is probably one of her weakest sets. Now, albeit that in the showcase that you saw, the damage, I am missing 25% raw damage here because I ran out of Mola, I couldn't. But even that being the case, so 25 is a bit over portrait. Even that being the case, in my opinion, it wouldn't have made that much of a difference in terms of the lifesteal aspect of Sigurd Scythe. Alright, let me just make that clear. The lifesteal aspect. We're not talking about the damage dealt to the opponent. That could probably have killed someone. But in terms of the lifesteal from Sigurd Scythe, the scenario I painted with, if you just a bit under the 50% HP, you heal with the S1, and then by the time you S3, you know, you're not gonna get the bigger heal. That's a pretty bad thing. So I feel that in her case, counter set doesn't actually benefit too much in the fight outside of getting the speed buff early, but you're gonna get it anyway if you go to the S3. So I mean, like her kit is pretty cool. On my initial thoughts video on ML Cermia, a lot of you guys on YouTube were like, hey Dragon, you actually miscalculated the cooldown. And I did, I admit it. I even pinned the comment saying that, yeah, so you guys made a mistake, overlooked the cooldown of like how she could pretty much turn cycle every time as long as they do the gimmick. So after an ally suffers an extra attack, counter attack, dual attack, dispels all debuffs inflicted on caster, as long as she can self-propel that defense buff, that cleanse, she can pretty much get into the S3 every time and then go back to the S1, because the S1 will also give you 20 fighting spirit. This again will give you 50 fighting spirit, and then you only need 80 fighting spirit here. So yeah, so realistically she can cycle it infinitely into the S3, S1, and then back. So it's pretty cool if she works that way, but most of the time she doesn't have that tempo that, let's say, Landy has. So one of my stream viewers were comparing ML Cermia to someone like Last Rider Crow, and I do feel like that is a bit of the case. So Last Rider Crow is like really good into AoE. She's kind of like really good into these gimmicks. So the extra attack, counter attack, or the dual attack. And albeit this is like the meta at the moment, it's really all about the extra attack, the counter attack, and the dual attack. Outside of you just, you know, outspeeding your opponent, but it's really one or the other. And so with that being the case, I feel like her release is like about the same as ML Crow, except that she doesn't have, how do you say it? It doesn't feel like she has the right punch as ML Crow. So ML Crow was like, you know, if you do AoE, you get punished because the barrier is pretty fat, and then the cooldown gets reset, and his is 100% defense pen, although it is true damage, so it doesn't scale with crit damage. But I would really say that they do about the same damage. Like my Last Rider Crow is like 28,000, almost 29,000 HP. And on the first stack, he does about like, you know, 7,000 or 8,000. And of course that's without the crit. And she does about the same. Like realistically, she does about the same, except that, you know, if you defense break them and stuff like that, you actually do more damage because you're doing crit damage and stuff like that. So there's some similarities. She self-cleanses, so she's more selfish. And Last Rider Crow is a bit more supportery and being a good damage. But the S1 does a speed buff, same as Last Rider Crow. So I do feel that the similarity is there. I can definitely see it. And like, you know, outside of that, if you're talking about AoE defense pen compared to Landy also generates speed buff even though it's on the S3, but Landy also does, you know, AoE CR boost, and then, you know, CR boost herself on the S1. So in terms of like Landy not having a cleanse though, Landy is just a stronger DPS. Now I do feel that this is where kind of ML Cermia kind of just falls a bit short. Now in my experimentations with like the Rimuru, you know, mixed with Politis, Bellion, Violet, Rem, or whatever, there were just a lot of fights, even though in the streak, it seems that it was pretty good. You saw some of the fights that was pretty clutch, right? So that really tells you that she's just not, like, she needs a full support team. And then now I'm running teams like with Rowana and ML Cermia, and that kind of works out a bit better. So Rowana and I've tried General Purgus, doesn't sustain as doesn't sustain as good, but the Rowana is definitely like a pretty good pairing with ML Cermia. So like I've noticed like some World Arena, she's definitely not like a high pick priority, but she could be a decent counter pick. And usually you see her drafted in like the 4th or 5th slot, like really last pick material, which is kind of unfortunate. Because like I said, I think ML Cermia, I haven't been excited about a DPS in a really long time. I kind of like her. I like her aesthetics. I mean, she looks fantastic. And I just kind of wish that there was a bit more punch. But for the sake of the game, I don't want her to be overpowered. So I mean, it really does depend. Like, do you feel that she's overpowered? She's definitely not overpowered. I don't think anybody claims that she's overpowered, but is she just right? I just think that there's something missing that could give her that ML flavor. But outside of that, she is like, I like her a lot. So here are the stats and the build. So I do feel that she's inspired me to want to go back to the Banshee mines. I've been kind of burying myself into Wyvern just because there's so many speedy heroes recently. So it's just kind of nice to have like a usable bruiser unit, and I can finally farm Banshee again. Because I mean, realistically, if you've been farming Banshee all this time, you probably have a lot of good gear. But I myself, like, you know, outside of just getting the HP rings from for Bellion, for like a Robbie and stuff like that, and even Rem, like I really don't have much use for a defense ring generally. But so my defense rings are just very lacking in general, and so now I feel like inspired to do Banshee again, you know, and really for Lionheart Cermia, for ML Cermia. And so yeah, so that's pretty much it. And I don't know, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like, what do you think about ML Cermia? I would say if you're still hesitant on pulling her and you want to feel like, okay, do I want her or not? Check out the Guild War video I did with Silly's account and then of course kind of review the arena stuff. So I think again her weaknesses is that she doesn't get the turn if she's not quick enough. It's pretty hard. She does have really high base speed, gotta keep that in mind. The issue with her is that her stats are just so low. She has no innate crit rate, so assuming you have no imprints, the crit rate's gonna be hard to get. She has 30% ER, which is just realistically it's a waste. If you're just gonna bank on her buff, you get 80% ER. Yeah, you get resist here and there, but it's not guaranteed to even resist the lowest debuffers, so like zero effectiveness FCC and stuff like that. Her HP and defense both are not super great, and so her struggle is honestly just stats. Again, one of my Patreon supporters, Silly, he did say something that I definitely want to quote him on, and I do think that's 100% true. He said it doesn't really matter what set she's on as long as you have really high gear score, because she really needs it. She really needs to make up for it. I think with her base speed, if you have a speed boot with a speed set, you don't need speed on any other piece, so that could be pretty good. I think if my recollection is correct, I was trying to build her on speed and crit, and even though the rest of the stats didn't matter, the speed was still like 210 or 220 speed without any speed on the other pieces. I might be wrong, but if you are building it on a speed set, you probably confirm what I just said. Her base speed is pretty good, so that really does carry a lot of the builds. But I would say, oh, someone else, one of my other Twitch viewers was saying that he was thinking of a revenge set. That could work. I feel like there has to be something that gets her a turn. Like ideally, I would probably run Lifesteal with the Randall even to a certain point. Azure Comet could work, so Rem's artifact. So anything to kind of get her turns would be pretty decent. I do feel that that's why I had to slot in Rowana and stuff like that now for my arena offense if I'm using her, because that's where I feel like she falls short. But anyways, that's my thoughts on ML Cermia. Hopefully that with the two videos combined, you guys will have your answer on whether or not you want to pull for her, and of course other showcases as well. So I'm gonna end this for the video recording. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.